Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 12th, 2024 New Bern Board of Aldermen meeting. The prayer tonight is going to be given by Alderman Bess.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you all please join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, I come to you this evening as humble as I know how, thanking you for giving me the opportunity and the privilege of serving your citizens of this city. And Lord, I ask that you touch the mind and heart of each one of us aldermen as we conduct the business of this city tonight, that we will be mindful, respectful, and treat each other with dignity and respect. Amen?
Amen. Amen. If you're able to stand, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Alderman Creel. Alderman Royal. Here. Alderman Astor.
Here.
Mayor Odham.
Here.
Alderman Kinsey.
Here.
Alderman Bess.
Present.
Alderman Brinson.
Here. Okay, before we go to item number 3, I've got a note that we have a couple of Boy Scouts here. We have Matthew Moore and Sullivan Pop. So welcome to the meeting tonight. I also have a note not to call you up because you're shy. Sullivan, I know you're not like your mom because she would certainly be happy to come up here and talk to us, but we're happy to have you here tonight. Board, item number 3 is to approve the agenda. Are there any changes?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next up is item number 4, request and petition of citizens. Madam Clerk. Thank you. First up is Alderwoman Jamisha Harris, 222 Monterey Circle.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
I am here in support of the redevelopment's work with the health and wellness. As a former alderwoman, along with my colleagues, we worked together to manage to divide the ARPA money and be able to put it towards our individual wards and also come together to allocate money to this project. I'm speaking directly at you, but I'm also speaking to the community because I don't want to turn around. And my thoughts and processes, I know that there are people here that may be in opposition of this, but there are so many times that we have come to this board, so many times that there has been a cry from the community that we're lacking resources. This is an amazing opportunity to provide this resource. I understand that there may be some discrepancies on the beginning, right? But we need to press through, because at the end of the day, the overall benefit is that there are going to be resources in this community. We have major partners that want to come together and make this happen, and I feel that if we push back on this, we're going to be stagnant in the community when we need progress. The resources that will be provided in this facility alongside the Stanley White are a great deal to the community and outside of the community. So I really hope that the board takes into consideration both sides, but also makes a decision holistically for our city and this direct community that it impacts, to let this come to that area, let it come next to that building on 3rd Ave, let it be built, and let's worry about the services inside. If we are concerned that it was moved from the McCotter spot over to 3rd Ave, we have to get past that. If the building could be built and the resources could be put into this building, let's have conversations on how that looks. Is it sliding scale? Will there be a benefit to partnership with the college if students, young adults are going to nursing programs and for them to be able to do clinicals there? We have to look beyond the location because it's still in the direct community. So I really hope that the community can understand that this is something that we need to move forward because these resources are needed in this community. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Eileen Russell of 731 3rd Avenue.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Eileen Russell. In the shadows of the Stanley White Recreation Center, there is a community that is being ignored. I'm talking about the Indigo Ridge Senior Apartments. The proposed medical urgent care center will be sitting in our basic front yard. Along with that, there are ramifications that people are not taking into consideration. We may need medical facilities, and the community could benefit from them, but not in our front yard. You bring people in that are having medical issues. You don't know what their problems will be, but they will be privy and have access to our home. We don't have the security. I'm sure they're not going to provide security that's going to watch people come in and out of that facility. Our ability to have quiet enjoyment will be interfered with because that facility is going to be open more than likely after hours or before hours that we're up. We are retired people. We are seniors. We have put our time, effort into this community or other communities, and we should be able to rest and relax in our home. There are traffic concerns that will be happening as well. So I understand that, we need resources, but there are other areas that can be put into. This is primarily a residential area. We have a nice little park that's being redone. Stanley White, they spent millions of dollars putting that beautiful building up. Enough is enough. Our community needs something more, and I would like that to be considered. Along with that, you also have to understand that we, as these seniors, we may not be the wealthiest people in the city of New Bern, but we're entitled to a nice place to live. And there are not a lot that are available. Indigo Ridge is 5 years old, and it has its concerns and problems, and we're addressing them and trying to get them taken care of as well. But we don't need to exacerbate that situation by putting something in with people who don't have the concern that our particular community does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Ruth Cooper of 1022 Colleton Way.
Hi, everybody. I know you pretty well. I am Ruth Cooper of Colleton Way. I just want to thank you very much for this New Bern Can't Bear Litter, new litter reduction campaign set to launch tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I will be there. I imagine I will see some of you there. I have relatives coming in from San Francisco tonight. I'm going to try to bring them with me. I figure they'll be awake by 3 o'clock. So thank you very much for this anti-litter campaign. Also, just so you know, I gave Ms. Blanco a picture of daffodils that are blooming in Duffy Field. The Duffy Field Phoenix Project planted these this fall. And there's like 100 of them are starting to bloom. They look really nice. And our plan is to not only pick up litter in Duffy Field, but to beautify it. And next month I'll sort of give you another blurb about our next big litter pickup in May 4th. Also, I'm an RN. I got my license and bachelor in nursing in 1984, and I actually transferred it here, so I'm still an RN. I was excited to see that there was going to be a health and wellness center on Bloomfield Street, and watch that building come down. And then again, I was excited to see that it's going to be over on 3rd Avenue, which to me, looks like it's a big enough space for the building and the parking. And, while building another building any place is going to have some impact on the neighbors, I think it would have a greater impact on the community, not just Duffy Field, but the whole community. It's to be a health and wellness center for whoever needs it, and it's definitely needed. And I don't think the traffic would impact Duffy Field and a lot of homeowners too much. I mean, I'm in Duffy Field almost every day, and I come down that street all the time, but I just really think Duffy Field and the whole city of New Bern needs a health and wellness center. And since that's where it looks like is the best place to build it, then I'm for it. I think that's about it. The only other thing that's kind of come to my attention recently is that if people live in an apartment and there are discrepancies in that apartment, if there are things that aren't fixed, I think I have my paper right here. The housing quality standards, there's like 13 aspects that housing is supposed to meet. But my understanding is unless somebody complains, those don't get addressed. I know housing isn't something that the alderman or the city New Bern wants to really deal with, but someone needs to address housing concerns. If tenants are afraid to speak up, or even their neighbors are afraid to speak up, and if it takes a complaint to get something done, that's too bad. There needs to be some kind of annual or periodic check of apartments to see that they meet the sanitary conditions, they have smoke detectors, they're secure, there's no lead-based paint. Just there are like 13 key aspects of housing quality standards that, somehow, whatever you can do, if you can marshal, some other group to take over that idea, but we shouldn't have to wait until things get so bad that someone complains, especially if someone is in an apartment and they're afraid to complain, they're afraid they'll get kicked out, and you know how little affordable housing there is here, so it's a hard situation. But thanks again for this, and I really hope it goes well. I don't know what exactly you're planning to do to educate the public and students about anti-littering. I hope you're telling them it's a punishable offense. I mean, you can fine people. It is against the law. It's not just a bad idea. I mean, we never litter, but some people repeatedly litter. So how to stop them, I don't know. If you got good ideas, go with them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Jimmy Dillahunt, Sr. of 1702 Hazel Avenue.
Good evening, Alderman.
Good
Good evening.
evening.
I'm a bit surprised. I didn't know we had the open quorum for the, I guess they were talking about the center that they proposed. So I'm a bit surprised about that. But I didn't come down here to talk about that. I came down to talk about First Avenue. If none of y'all been down First Avenue, please go down First Avenue. I was trying to get through there today. Myself, that gentleman, and about 5 more of his comrades were there in a drug-infested area on First Avenue, which should lead from Chapman Street. You should have a thoroughfare all the way through. Instead of going down First Avenue, all the traffic is directed down Third Avenue, which create a bigger problem on Third Avenue. So if I could, definitely I would love to get that addressed. Second Avenue is beautiful. Well, I won't say beautiful, but it's better than First Avenue. And I'm also concerned about the Duffield area. We have some nice elevated houses that are being elevated. Some of them have been finished. But the question I'm asking you guys, what is going to happen to the rest of the residents that live in Duffield? Next big flood we have, like the last one we had, I almost drowned myself. Matter of fact, I was on CNN, jumping in a boat, trying to swim or get out keep from getting drowned. If you guys don't remember seeing me on CNN, I'll try to get you a picture. My house isn't on that list to be elevated. I was in 5 foot of water. So I would like to address that also. And another item I have is the parking. Well, I'm gonna bring up First Avenue again. Why should there be parking on First Avenue on both sides? You can't get through if you got parking on both sides. And once again, the traffic from Chapman Street, from everywhere coming out of Duffield, going Third Avenue. So I don't think nothing else need to be put on Third Avenue, but maybe some nice independent houses for the neighborhood. And I'm not gonna get into that situation tonight, because I didn't know that was on your agenda. Maybe that will come up another time. And I thank y'all, and I wish you would consider Third Avenue as a residential area, not a thoroughfare for the traffic coming out of Duffield. If First Avenue was available, they would go straight to Broad Street. But if you get a chance, I would ask you, I would love for you to ride through First Avenue just one time. And if you're aware for 3rd Avenue, stop out there in my parking lot, and you can count the traffic that goes through there. It's terrible. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is all of the petitions of citizens for tonight. Board will look at the consent agenda now. Any questions or comments?
Mayor, I make a motion to pass the consent agenda as is.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Royal.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes. Consent agenda carries. Next up is item number 9 is a presentation by the Redevelopment Commission on a proposed health and wellness center. Mr. Huff.
Good evening, Board,
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor. It's good to see you guys. You guys ready? Come on up. Don't be shy. Come on. You see how they tried to do me? They wanted me to stand up here by myself. But this has been a team effort that spans for much longer than my tenure on the Redevelopment Commission, and so it would be an absolute travesty for me to stand up by myself. So, as a staff, let me just, on behalf of the Redevelopment Commission, I want to say thank you for your continued support of the work that we get to do. We always, on the Redevelopment Commission, seek to lead the way for community transformation and improvement by directly addressing community needs. We do this by rebuilding and rehabilitating the community in its own unique way that celebrates and honors the rich African American heritage and ultimately provides residents and the community with an area that cultivates creativity and entrepreneurship, fosters diversity, and promotes growth and wellness. Tonight, we are here to present to you an idea that has been more than 20 years in the making. I'd be remiss if I didn't go over some of the work that's taken place to get us to this point. For years, commissioners, citizens, staff, alder people, and experts from across the state have been enlisted to postulate ideas on a health and wellness resource that would serve the residents of the redevelopment boundary area. At least since 2014, the City of New Bern's Gateway Renaissance Plan documented barriers to accessing health and wellness resources experienced by residents of the New Bern redevelopment zone. The 2016 Choice Neighborhood Initiative's Greater 5 Points Transformation Plan, I practiced in the mirror. I got it. Further analyzed and expounded upon the need for health and wellness resources in the redevelopment zone. Additionally, the Redevelopment Commission's redevelopment plan, approved by the Board of Aldermen in February of 2020, specifically identified a goal of increasing the number of healthcare and wellness opportunities within the redevelopment zone. So to say that we've been talking about this for a while would be what I call an understatement. We've been talking about it for a long while. And so since its inception, the Redevelopment Commission of the City of New Bern, along with community partners, has worked diligently to plan not just for a resource in the greater Duffield area, but for a sustainable resource that would serve specifically the individuals experiencing these barriers. In late 2023, the Redevelopment Commission entered into conversations with Carolina East Health System with a simple idea that we could partner together to develop a project that could grow. During those early conversations, the Carolina East Health System representatives began to catch the vision of a health and wellness clinic to provide health care resources aimed at residents who struggled with barriers to these essential services. There we go. Sorry, I forget to press the button sometimes. As the ideas formed and blossomed for the commission, it became apparent that a larger parcel of land would be needed to accommodate the breadth of resources and services Carolina East Health System could provide. The commission has identified 727 3rd Avenue as an ideal location for the new healthcare facility. This parcel is a city-owned property directly between the former site of the Stanley White Recreation Center and the new one. It is also located directly in front of the Indigo Ridge Apartments, an apartment community for those over 55. This presentation is meant to inform the governing body of a proposed agreement and to bring the conversation on this development to the public for engagement and feedback. The commission plans to make a formal request of the board in the coming weeks. At that time, the Redevelopment Commission of the City of New Bern will request that the City of New Bern convey 727 3rd Avenue to the commission so that the commission can subsequently be reconveyed to Carolina East Health System, subject to restrictive covenants requiring Carolina East to construct and operate a convenient care clinic for no less than 5 years. Additionally, the commission will request at that time that the Board of Aldermen approve the transfer of the remaining $313,018.88 that was previously allocated to the commission for the construction of a health and wellness center. The hospital would take the city's investment and add their corporate investment into the building and operation of a convenient clinic for the community. Carolina East's investment would represent one of the largest private investments in the redevelopment zone since its establishment. Tonight, I'm joined by Ms. Judy Pierce from Carolina East Health System. She's been an invaluable asset and a great pleasure to work with as she's liaison between the commission and the hospital. In addition, you will hear from the commissioner who has championed this project for as long as I've been involved, Commissioner Tabari Wallace. I also wish to note the commissioners here tonight with us in support of the health center, Commissioner Leander Morgan Jr. and Commissioner Julius Parham. So, with that, I'll hand you the floor, Ms. Judy.
Thank you. Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is a pleasure to be before you this evening. As said, my name is Judy Pierce. I serve as the Director of Mission Effectiveness with Carolina East Health System. Convenient care clinic. A dream becoming a reality. Carolina East Health System will deliver convenient care to the residents of Craven County, specifically the greater Duffield community. The building will aesthetically complement the Stanley White Recreation Center next door. The mission of Carolina East Health System is to provide quality care for all patients in our service area. We consider this a privilege and welcome the diversity of the communities as we continue to build relationships, trust, and excellence in service. Carolina East Convenient Care will provide walk-in and same-day care to those in most need, especially those with chronic diseases, i.e. diabetes, COPD, high blood pressure, etc. Additionally, we will be a source for education around well care and disease management. Together, we will build upon this foundation. Like all Carolina East primary and walk-in locations, narcotics will not be available on the property. The convenient care clinic is not urgent care. Carolina East Health System will continue our endeavors to augment, not replace, the incredible work provided by Craven County Health Department, Mercy Clinic, and Goshen Clinic, just to name a few. You're probably wondering the why. Good. Carolina East Health System, with over 3,000 employees, care about you, and me. and all the communities that we are privileged to serve. Our community residents and leaders have heard that the health care is a top-of-mind concern for many who cannot leave work for normal work hours or the opportunity for convenient health care beyond the normal work day of 5 p.m. For these reasons, we will have hours to accommodate people who work and cannot leave for their care. Providing convenient care when the community needs it most, and either whether they need a connection or a resource from the health department, Mercy Clinic, or other entity within the community, or referring them back to the health department, Mercy Clinic, where they have already established a relationship. This is important to us so that the individuals can benefit from their services, especially related to their medications that they may be receiving. Yes, challenges exist for many who are without reliable transportation. And yes, we have begun discussions with other healthcare and community leaders about securing transportation when needed to provide rides to primary caregivers at the health department or other providers in the community. Carolina East Medical Center, our local hospital and convenient care clinic will and shall continue to offer quality care and excellence in service every encounter, every opportunity, at all locations. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Good evening.
Good evening.
4.5 years ago, we embarked on a mission with the goal of revitalizing the greater Duffield community and some of the 5 Points community. The first Health and Wellness Committee that was the original Health and Wellness team or work group is what we've been conditioned to say. The first plan's trajectory focused on education, speaking, seminars, and surveys. When the first work group received a little bit of pushback because the curriculum that we focused on was strictly about slavery, they gave it up and turned it over to the current Health and Wellness team. Now, today, we stand in the fork in the road. We can either go on one side and go to progress, or we can either go to the other side and go to some regression. This day almost never happened. The new and current Health and Wellness Center joined forces with Mr. Reggie Jones. He had a vision of having the Circle of Hope completed. His network, which included, and I have to give him credit, North Carolina Central, Duke, Mercy Clinic, Hospital Foundation, New Bern Health Department, ECU, Lincoln Community Center, Health Center, and many others. Through our 2 years of meeting with these partners, 2 years of meeting with these partners, that propelled us to stand in front of you about 1.5 years ago and ask for the $350,000 endowment so we can build a building and move forward. And I stand here thanking you for a second time for that endowment because it was approved. All of the aforementioned partners offered assistance, but due to certain procedures and policies and restrictions and covenants of their organizations, they could not assume programmatic and legal operational stewardship of the building. So we were back at phase 1. Then the phone rang. Earlier last year, the phone rang. And our partner, the Carolina East Health Systems, they rode in on a horse, a white horse, because we didn't know where we were going to go to finish this thing, to fill a void that has existed in our community since its establishment, according to the Queen. She had never seen a health center on this side of town in the 5 Points community. They stepped up and said, we will assume the programmatic stewardship of the Health and Wellness Center, and with that comes site insurance, building management, doctors, nurses, and equipments, etc. We went from screening, pamphlets, interns, and forms and education to actually certified doctors, nurses, technicians, and equipment, all to help serve a community in need. If you convey the land, and the dollars that have been attached to the former project. No longer will the school nurse be the primary and first stop for our children in school. No longer will the people have to sit in ailment until it is no longer tolerable. The pain is so much before they seek help because they simply don't have insurance. No longer will our people have to worry whether or not they're going to go seek medical care or they're going to pay the rent of the mortgage. You need 5 things to truly revitalize a community. You need schools, education. Craven County Board of Education took care of that part, and they kept J.T. Barber right where it is. Housing. The Redevelopment Commission we were assigned to take care of that, and we are working on it. Medical. The hospital has stepped up to take care with the convenient care to address that need. Recreation. Thank you to the alderman here and prior alderman for Stanley White, because it looks pretty good up there going up. And finance/food. Food, Hazel Royal, our alderman, she already has a food drop going on in the community. We just need to expand upon that. And then finance. My partners, Victor Dove and several others, are already working on that so we can begin to bring some of that into our neighborhood. If we can predict it, ladies and gentlemen, we can prevent it. We know there's a need here. The suffering of our people will stop with your action. I thank you and all of the partners that contributed through this journey to get us here today. But I want to close with, we are uniting our unique resources for a major collective impact. I yield my time.
Thank you.
There's nothing left to say after Tabari speaks, but drop the mic. But we did want to give opportunity for questions because, again, this whole presentation, the reason we're not here requesting that you just adopt the agreement and move forward is because we wanted to invite time for processing and feedback and questions. So does the board have questions for us?
Questions, anyone?
I'd like to say to Ms. Pierce, you articulated it very well. It was well received. Mr. Wallace, the birth has now been born. I feel very strong about the situation, and I'm aboard. Thank you guys so very much for all the hard work that you have put into this situation to make it real. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Beth?
I started out back in 2019 when former Alderwoman Harris and Alderwoman Bingle and I talked about this project, the need for it. And I've been behind the Redevelopment Commission ever since. Y'all have taken some hard hits from the public on certain issues, but that's to be expected. You did not let that derail you. You kept on fighting because you know the need for this clinic within, I'm going to say, the black community, but this clinic will serve all citizens of this city. So I just want to let all of you know the hard work that you have put into this, to the Redevelopment Commission. Continue to work hard, continue to fulfill your goals. And well, of course, you know I'm behind this project because I initially wanted it on Bloomfield Street, but that didn't pan out to be the proper location. So I didn't have a problem with that. I got over that because I know the need for this clinic. So I'm on board with you. I think this is to have Carolina East Medical Center on board with us to make this project come to fruition. I just say thank God and thank you all.
Great job, Zeb. Thanks. You guys do a good job. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? There's really not a whole lot else to say, but the Bloomfield site has been brought up a couple of times tonight. So do you have plans as what would happen with the Bloomfield site should this process move forward?
The commission has started discussions. Well, we've been in discussions really since the decision to move it about what could possibly happen there, and we have so many ideas. We haven't settled on one because we want to get done with this project first, but we will definitely have something on that site, and we do plan to attack that. Can I say immediately? Oh, yes. Immediately. Commissioner Wallace said I could say immediately.
I just bring that up because I think so many things about redevelopment and what we're trying to do is about momentum.
Yeah.
And you built 3 very nice houses, thanks to Alderman Astor for his allocation of ARPA funds. And I just feel like we're moving in the right direction. We were at the Stanley White, topping off ceremony today where they put the last beam and they welded it up. So you can see a lot of momentum happening. And all of you that have listened to me before, you'll know I talk about how slow things move in government. So when things are moving at a steady pace like they are right now, we want to keep that momentum going. So let's not focus on this project and forget about everything else. Let's go ahead and start on the next one so we can keep it going. So
absolutely.
That's my words for the evening. But thank you all for your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Can you give Zeb, is it okay if I ask him to give a quick update on the 3 houses?
Sure.
So I'm actually glad you asked because I've been bursting at the seams. I was there this afternoon. We put in stoves and refrigerators, so appliances, fixtures, everything is in. And so we'll be cutting ribbons real soon. And for any citizens inquiring about those properties, you can always submit a request to purchase. We have a waiting. We have a few people in line already. So request to purchase is at the city clerk's office. Feel free to drop those off, and we'll make sure that we take note of your name. And when they are when they are available, we'll make sure that we let the public know. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
I apologize.
Sure.
I left one commissioner out earlier, and I don't know why because he was up here, but Commissioner Dillahunt also represents the Redevelopment Commission. And I would also be remiss if I didn't recognize CEO of Carolina East Health System, Michael Smith, is here in support tonight. So I apologize.
Thank you for everybody who came out. It certainly means a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Not as exciting, but still important for us to do is item number 10, to consider adopting a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the U.S. Police Canine Association. Chief Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor, Board, City Manager. I've often said to my staff, we have to be very diligent in the financial stewardship of the monies that we receive. And one of the things I've often said to them is if you can find the money through grants, let's try to minimize some of the tough decisions the city manager and this board has to make with respect to where all that money comes from. We have 5 canine animals and on our agency. Axe is our oldest canine. He is 9 years old. I don't know what that is in dog years, but in people years, he's 9 years old. The average lifespan of a canine officer is between 7 and 10 years, depending on the dog and the dog's health. We have an opportunity to seek a grant for $7,500. We would be required to match that by 25%. The cost of a canine is a little over $18,000. We have submitted in our capital improvement budget for the cost of a brand new dog of a total cost of $18,500. We would be spending the matching portion, and if we are approved for this canine grant application, it would reduce our capital improvement request from $18,500 to actually $11,000 out of pocket for us. So we request that the board approve our ability to compete for this grant. There's no guarantees, but we are optimistic that if we submit our application early enough, we will be granted this opportunity. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I happen to have my Canine lieutenant in the room. If I can't answer it, he's here to answer it as well.
Does the board have questions?
Mayor, if there's no question, I would like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the U.S. Police Canine Association.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I just have one question for you, Chief. How many total canines do we have now?
We have 5.
So we have around-the-clock, 24-hour service.
That's correct.
If needed, correct?
Yes.
Very good. Any further discussion? All right, let's have a roll call, starting with Alderman Astor, please.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey. Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Brinson.
Yes.
Alderman Royal.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, Board, items 11 through 16 are all pretty much the same. It's all for adopting resolutions approving sales of different parcels. If the board would like to, you can consider all those together, and that's items number 11 through 16. So I'll ask Mr. Hughes if he would give us a brief synopsis of each of those.
Thank you, Mayor. First property is 1013 Bloomfield Street. After receiving a bid of $3,000 from Lay Team and Remodelers, there was no upset bids received. The property is a vacant .116 acre residential lot. We received this property in 2009 through tax foreclosure. If the property is sold for this bid, the city will receive $1,144.71, and the county will receive $1,855.29. The next property is located at 1017 Bloomfield Street. The Lay Team and Remodelers LLC also tendered an offer of $3,000 for this parcel. No upset bids were received during this process. The property is a vacant .143 acre residential parcel. We received this in 2018 through tax foreclosure. If the property is sold for this bid, the city will receive $1,035.28, and the county will receive $1,964.72. The next property is located at 1302 William Street. PR Property Group LLC made an offer of $3,000 for the purchase of this property. No upset bids were received. The property is a vacant .119 acre residential lot. We acquired this in 2006 through tax foreclosure. If the property is sold for this bid, the city will receive $1,192.04, and the county will receive $1,807.96 from the proceeds. The next property is located at 1407 Garden Street. PR Property Group LLC also tendered an offer of $2,700 for the purchase of this property. This vacant parcel is .085 acres in size. We received this property in 2015 through tax foreclosure. If the property is sold, the city will receive $706.92, and the county will receive $1,993.08 from the proceeds. The next property is located at 1411 Garden Street. PR Property Group LLC tendered an offer of $3,000 for this property. No upset bids were received. This is a vacant .093 acre residential lot that was acquired in 2015 through tax foreclosure. If the property is sold for $3,000, the city will receive $1,275.26, and the county will receive $1,724.74 from the proceeds. And the final property is 1904 Washington Street. PR Property Group LLC submitted a bid of $10,000 for the purchase of this .37 acre residential parcel. We acquired this in 2015 through tax foreclosure. If the property is sold for this bid, the city will receive $4,187, and the county will receive $5,813 from the proceeds.
Board have questions?
If there are not any questions, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the sale of 1013 Bloomfield Street, 1017 Bloomfield Street, 1302 William Street, 1407 Garden Street, 1411 Garden Street, 1904 Washington Street.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Kinsey.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you all for your work there combining those. Item number 17 is consider adopting a resolution approving a license agreement with the New Bern Area Improvements Association, Inc., extending the use of 800 Cedar Street. Mr. Hughes.
I'd like to ask Carrie Warren to come up and present this item.
Good afternoon, Board and Mayor. So we are requesting to extend the lease of the Omega Center to continue offering community programs until the construction of Stanley White Recreation Center is completed. And I think the lease on that's going to be $25,971, and that will, I'll put it on my paper, in the first of the 2025.
Yes, we're looking to extend this through January 31st of 2025, just in case. We think we're going to open up the new recreation center in December, but just in case there are some delays, we wanted to have a carryover to the end of January. This is to allow Parks and Recreation Department to continue to offer programs and activities to the citizens in the Duffy Field area until the new recreation center is completed.
Board have questions?
I do.
Alderman Kinsey?
The programs that's been operating there, can you give us some insight on some of the programs and what's been going on with them since they've been?
We'll defer that to the Parks and Recreation Director.
So some of the programs have been senior fitness, weekday walking. We were doing after school there, but we didn't have a lot of participation in the after school program when we were operating it there, and so we ended up combining it with some of the West New Bern and then the Pleasant Hill Community Center, because we are doing after school at Pleasant Hill Community Center. So we're not doing after school over there currently. We have been offering, we did do summer camp. We had a few kids over there, and we ended up having summer camp out there for a little while, and then we moved it over to West New Bern because we had a staff that was out. We've done Little Beaker Science Lab over there. That was very successful. Build-A-Bot was very successful for youth. We're going to be focusing on more senior and non-school age children starting this time, because most of our programming that we can do over there is before after school. Because with staff who are doing after school programming, we don't have enough staff to cover all areas. So we're going to focus on morning programming over at the Omega Center.
So when will that start?
That will start once this lease is re-signed, because currently now the lease is ended.
All right.
So April 1st or a little bit before, once we finish this lease.
Question for either the manager or Alderman Astor. I thought the first time we did this was reimbursable by FEMA because we were out of the Stanley White. Is that still the case since it's under construction and it's a FEMA project?
I think we addressed this the last time, and when we spoke with our consultant, it was not reimbursable on this. This is the third time we've re-upped this lease, and it was not reimbursable on the last time.
But the first time it was?
First time it was.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution to approve a license agreement with the New Bern Area Improvement Association, Inc.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Best.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 18, consider adopting a resolution to accept ARPA funds from the State Fiscal Recovery Fund for water and wastewater infrastructure. Ms. Harms.
Good evening. In September of 2022, the city applied for funding of $4,149,360 from the American Rescue Plan Act, Local Assistance for Stormwater Infrastructure Investments, Stormwater Construction Grant. A letter of intent to fund the request was issued by the State of North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality on March 23, 2023. And we received a follow-up letter, funding offer dated February 20th of 2024. And one condition is the board must adopt a resolution to accept the grant funds. That's what this resolution is for.
Board have questions?
No questions. If there's no questions, I make a motion to adopt a resolution to accept the ARPA funds from the state fiscal recovery funds for water and wastewater infrastructure.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call, starting with Alderman Brinson.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes. Thank you. Very good. That's a lot of money, so that's going to be very helpful. So, item number 19, consider adopting an ordinance amending the Drainage Improvements Project Fund. Also, Ms. Harms.
Okay. So this ordinance amends the Drainage Improvements Project Fund to acknowledge the grant funds that were just referenced in the previous item.
All right. Does the board have questions?
Mayor, make a motion to adopt an ordinance amending the Drainage Improvement Project Fund.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call, starting with Alderman Royal.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Brinson,
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 20, I do not show any appointments for anyone, but just a heads up, we fixed this a couple years ago to make sure that these were all starting on time and ending on time. So a lot of these boards and commissions, their appointments will end on June 30th. So just a heads up that there's going to be quite a few appointments that's probably going to be coming up. So I'd like to ask the clerk if she would, in the next few weeks when she gets an opportunity, to send us all what those expiring terms would be. Some of them are based off of specific wards. Some of them are just general board appointments. And then also, our new board's rules and procedures, it's been pointed out that in order for us to consider someone to be appointed, they should submit an application or a form of interest. Those are available hard copy from City Hall, or they're available online. They also get purged every year, I learned. So we need to make sure we get the word out. I'm sure Colleen will help us with that, but make sure we let our constituents know there will be quite a few opportunities to serve coming up in the immediate future. So anything regarding appointments? All right. Item number 21, Attorney's Report.
Mayor, members of the board, you have before you some proposed edits to your rules of procedure. You have previously given me some direction with respect to two issues. One was canceling a regular meeting during a state of emergency, and the other was clarifying the procedures for conflicts of interest. While I was in there doing surgery on those several issues, I thought it was a good time to go through the entire body of rules and update those where we've had statutory changes in the last couple of years. So the vast majority of the proposed changes before you are simply incorporating what the current statutes require, which is another way of saying you don't have a lot of discretion as to how you want to handle those. The one issue that you do, that I included at the very end, is what is called electronic participation in a meeting when you cannot attend. That is different than an electronic board meeting during a state of emergency. Some of you that have been serving for a while recall that in previous years we had the ability, until it was clarified by statute, to meet electronically. Now we have only one version of a true electronic meeting, and that is during a state of emergency. The version I'm offering to you to reflect on is whether or not you want to enable a public official who cannot attend a meeting to phone in or Zoom in, not be counted as present for a quorum because the statute doesn't allow for that, but at least you could call in or Zoom in and be available and could ask questions during a discussion. But you would not be counted for a quorum, and you could not vote because the statute doesn't allow for that. I fully recognize that any of you, while traveling or at home, can watch the meeting live on the internet if you'd like. I just mentioned this as an option that some cities think is helpful, others do not. And I'm recognizing as well that Alderman Prill couldn't be with us this evening. I don't need a firm answer this evening. I just want to raise that to get you reflecting on your own thoughts about whether that is helpful or not.
I'd like to go back on something. The appointments. A lot of the appointments that we've been making in the past, are we looking at for city residents only, or you can actually live out of the city limits and be appointed?
Yes, sir. Great question, and that varies by board or commission. Many times, our state statute requires that you be a resident of the city to
Correct.
serve. Other times, the statute does not. And then when the statute does not, it is entirely up to the board to make that decision.
So what you're saying, trying to make sure I'm understanding, it depends upon the board
The board upon which
you're serving.
the person would serve, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Are you saying that each particular board makes that decision?
No, ma'am. The state statutes tell us whether or not a member who's appointed to a board has to be a city resident or not.
Okay,
And that is board specific,
okay. board
depending on the
specific.
statute.
Right.
Thank you.
And the website, I know the clerk is painfully aware of those metrics and helps guide people through what they may or may not be able to serve on.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney, I know you said you weren't looking for a decision tonight. Just my only feedback on that last issue that you mentioned as far as participating remotely, but that's really just to ask questions.
Exactly.
You couldn't vote. So, for example, you mentioned Alderman Prill's not here tonight. So Alderman Prill decided if we adopted this rule, I want to make sure I'm clear, he could have dialed in or Zoomed in and listened to the meeting and chimed in with questions or comments. But when we actually took a vote, his vote, he wouldn't have voted.
No, sir, and you hit on the head. The only difference is the ability to ask questions. Everyone's free to watch the meeting, obviously, on the internet. This rule would simply allow you to ask a question while you are Zoomed in or called in.
Is he counted as present in the meeting? Or?
No, sir. No, and that's the big difference. You are not legally, you are not counted as present, which is why you cannot vote. So the only thing this would allow is for you to watch and ask a question.
And that's it.
I don't know that I have a real strong opinion one way or the other on this. I would just say that having gone through COVID, some of us that were on the board at the time and participating remotely, and I've been at conferences before and listened to a meeting and try to keep up. That the timing's always off. It's very hard to do that. So if you were to ask me, I would probably say no to leave that out. But again, I want to be respectful. If somebody can't make a meeting and they want to dial in and ask a question, I don't want to stop them from being able to do that. I just don't know how often it would happen. So maybe it's a moot point. But so you want us to give you some direction after we think about this a little bit?
Reflect on this. Your homework is to reflect on that narrow issue. I'm also happy to answer any questions you have about the highlighted sections that are before you. Again, these are all driven by statute. I gave you a narrative with some of the statutory references so that you could follow along. This is just a great place to have those rules and have them updated so that it's user-friendly. And to the issue of canceling a regular meeting due to a state of emergency, we do have a state statute that allows the mayor to declare a state of emergency, even if the governor already has. So that's the tool that would be triggered to, and I'm going to split hairs. There's no statutory authority for a board to cancel a meeting. So the cancellation is effectively a notice that a quorum will not be there. Splitting hairs, but that's the way we get around not canceling it.
Okay, so the board has this. We'll take it back. If anybody has questions about the highlights, they can contact you.
Please do.
All right. Anything else, sir?
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, next up is number 22, City Manager's Report.
A few items to update you on, Mayor. First, Shot Spotter. We anticipate this going live around March 21st, approximately. Police department staff are currently going through the training with the Shot Spotter crew, so we look forward to how this process is going to go and look forward to getting regular updates from the police chief on this. Also, want to remind you again about the community cleanup day that's going to take place tomorrow. This will be on Pine Tree Drive. This is going to start at 3 p.m. Also want to remind you, as part of this community cleanup day, basically Colleen, George Childs, and Carrie Warren got together. They looked at the entire city, and George provided information on the really areas that are in need throughout the city. And so every single ward is going to be touched throughout the year. We're looking at doing a monthly cleanup from March through November of this year, but this doesn't prevent folks that are in their own communities from wanting to do a cleanup day as well. And so we highly encourage that. And if there are any communities that would like to have cleanup days, we encourage you to reach out to Public Works. They can provide trash bags and things like that for your cleanups. And I want to remind you of our motto: keep New Bern clean, we can't bear litter. I want to thank everyone for attending the topping out ceremony today. We had several members from the governing board, the Stanley White Recreation Advisory Committee, several city staff members, and the contractors and subs that were out there. Everyone that was in attendance got to sign the final beam that was going into the facility. We look forward to how that facility progresses over the next several months and are excited about that. The next thing I have for you, and Colleen, if you could show the map. At the October 10th, 2023 board meeting, the board adopted an ordinance to amend section 15-343, flexibility and administration required of the Code of Ordinances. This text amendment expanded parking exemptions downtown, essentially from Hancock Street to East Front Street and South Front Street to Broad Street. Several of you may have been contacted, and it came to our attention as well, that there is one property adjacent to the boundary that didn't receive an exemption. So on the map you've got, if you'll look at the lower left-hand side, there is a white star on the property in question, and you can see where the boundary is behind the farmer's market. Then it basically excludes that property in question, comes back over at the bank parking lot and continues on. And so the property in question is under contract, and this issue is holding up the sale of that property. They've reached out to development services staff. I am aware that the staff gave them an option that they could reach out to private parking lots downtown to lease parking lots. But remember, the reason that we did this exemption was to avoid that issue back last fall. So with that being said, since time is of the essence, we're asking the board to make a motion for the Planning and Zoning Board to revisit the parking exemption boundary at their next meeting on March 21st and come back to the board at the March 26th meeting, and 2, for the governing board to conduct a public hearing on this matter and then consider.
Board have questions about that item?
Not at all.
Let's give them direction.
Yeah.
Somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion that city manager directs Development Services to send this matter back to Planning and Zoning to their next meeting and then report back to us at our next meeting, correct? Or the meeting directly after that. Is that the correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Second.
And then to advertise a public hearing for this.
And advertise for public hearing.
Good with that?
For the next regular meeting.
For the next regular meeting.
Okay. All right. So just to be clear, the process is planning and zoning will take up this matter, look at this parcel that was excluded, provide this Board of Aldermen with their recommendation. Congruent to that, or concurrent to that, we are going to post a public hearing, a notice of a public hearing to be held at our March 26th meeting, I believe, our next meeting of this month.
That's correct.
And then that way we can make a decision.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, Mr. City Attorney, it's my understanding that if this building becomes vacant, it could never sell unless we make this change?
That's
That's
the use could not be changed, and that's the premise that drove the entire change back in October.
This was just an oversight?
I can't speak for the Planning and Zoning Board. It seems like it to me, and my personal theory is that everyone was so focused on the parcels that fronted on South Front Street that this parcel that sits behind Wells Fargo just doesn't jump out.
Gotcha.
But it's a parcel that does not have any on-site parking, so there's no version of reality where it can ever comply with the parking ordinance, and there's no satellite parking opportunities within 600 feet where you could buy another parking lot or lease another parking lot for 30 years. So
I certainly didn't catch it because when we discussed this, we talked about those boundaries from Broad to Front and then the river, and then we said, but we're going to exclude the hotels, Sky Sail, and the convention center. This parcel is not part of any of those. So.
Exactly, and the theory was if you have a giant parking lot, you as a board wanted them to maintain those parking lots. So I suspect it was an oversight, but P&Z can quickly let you know at their next meeting and then report back so that at your next regular meeting you can decide to amend the ordinance or not.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Everyone understands the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
I
That's all I
didn't
have.
hear, who was the second?
Alderman Kinsey. Anything else, Mr. Manager?
That's all, sir.
Okay. Next up is new business, Alderman Brinson.
Nothing tonight, sir.
Alderman Bess.
Yes, I'd just like to take a moment to recognize and remember the late Mr. Alfred Barfield. Mr. Barfield was a pioneer and an advocate for rights for all people, equal rights for all people. Mr. Barfield and 28 other African-American high school students back in 1960. They participated in marches, sit-ins, and they protested and marched for 8 months. And after 8 months, right here in our downtown New Bern, they put a mark on history. Mr. Barfield came before this board, before the Board of Aldermen, and at that time, Mayor Outlaw granted that proclamation. Mr. Barfield asked for a proclamation signifying that the month of March be remembered and that we not forget the forgotten 29. So here we are, March 2024, 64 years later, and I am proud to say that I will never forget Mr. Barfield nor the forgotten 29. This is Women's History Month, so I would like to say to you, Alderman Royal, and to all the young ladies out that's present here tonight, and those that are viewing, thank you for your service, thank you for your commitment, for all you do for your community and your city. Thank you. That's it.
Alderman Kinsey.
not tonight, sir.
Alderman Astor.
Nothing tonight, sir.
Alderman Royal.
Nothing tonight.
I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you, Alderman Best, for bringing that up about Popeye Barfield, as most of them knew him. I was out of town and unfortunately not able to make his service. But I was talking to a gentleman that's friend of mine that's on the Bates Foundation. He says, you know, that Al, he was a great guy. I said, yeah, he was. I said, why do you say that? He says, well, he said one time he applied to the Bates Foundation for a grant for, I think he said for some air conditioning units. And he said they granted him that funding, and he got the money. He said they did the project, and they came in under budget by just a few $100s. And he said, Popeye called him and said, we came in under budget a few $100s. Where can I send this money back to that was left over? And, you know, that says a lot about the character of Popeye. He will absolutely be missed. I know each time around Thanksgiving he would reach out, ask for donations, because he was always very passionate about making sure people had a Thanksgiving meal. So I'm sure there will be somebody that will step up to help fill that gap. I don't know that it can quite fill the whole thing, but maybe if a few people join together, they can help close it up. So he will definitely be missed. Do we need a closed session?
No, sir.
All right. No other business coming before the board. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.